good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to yet another One Make series, and this time, of course, it's the turn of the Ginetta G55 GT4. Watkins Glen, located in the town of Dix, just southwest of Watkins Glen, New York, plays host to round 3 today, just over 5.5 kilometers in length with 11 turns. I'm John Dalton, your lead commentator. Alongside me, Jesse Lee, and behind the cameras is a new face in the form of Ash Bibby, and of course a big hello to our live stewards. Welcome everyone.
Hello everybody, and yeah, round number 3, and I'm finally home, back in my home time zone at least. Welcome to upstate New York, a lovely part of the world. Nothing up here but lovely little villages and farmland. Go a little bit north of here, you'll get to one of the greatest waterfalls in the entire world. But today, it's all happening here at Watkins Glen International, and International, it is a track that's hosted any racing series worth its salt, let's be honest, in the past 50 some years. And today, of course, with GT4s here, we've got a lot of cars on track here. John, split up into 2 different categories, Pro and Silver, each getting their own 10 minutes of qualifying done. It is a quick racetrack, it's a quick lap around here, but making one small mistake, particularly in the bus stop chicane, can lose you a second plus, and that's going to be huge here in the quali runs.
It's a very momentum-based circuit, Jesse, of course, with the long runs you have between corners, of course, from turn 1 all the way up to the inner loop, known as, of course, the bus stop. That's a complete country mile, let's say. Of course, maxing out the gearbox in the Ginettas, so that's going to be a problem here today, especially if you're catching slipstream. Of course, you're both going to be limited by your gearboxes at some point. Again, you've got long runs from turn 7 of toe all the way down to hill, and then you've got to get a good run out of the hill where Tim Ireland is at the moment for the uphill corner of turn 9, of course, that we get to next. And then again, you've got a nice long drag from 9 to 10, a little drag from 10 to 11, but then a big drag, of course, from the final turn all the way down the hill back to turn 1 again. So corner exits are going to be crucial. Track limits, again, are something that are very contested here, especially in turn 10, as Callum Kerrigan crosses the line to set the base mark time of a 1:55.285. And remember, GT4s, of course, no tyre blankets on them, so the qualifying session kind of becomes almost a mini stint where you have to kind of fuel the car for the 10 minutes and just kind of pound around in your own little sprint race just to try and get that top time secured. Of course, normally with the GT3s we see very light fuel loads, cars jumping back to the pits constantly to try and get the lightest fuel load on the freshest tyres to set their laps, but doesn't really happen in GT4 at all. Callum Kerrigan throwing the car through the inner loop. We're already getting very brave, Jesse, and we're only in the qualifying. It's going to be absolute scenes in the race coming through the inner loop.
Yeah, you imagine 20-some plus cars. I think we have, 25, 26 cars here, all throwing it through the chicane. You really don't do that in a GT3 car. It's about getting it wound up and turned in. But with a GT4, you just sort of yeet, for lack of a better term, into that chicane and hope that even if you do slide, you slide the rear end out and get pointed towards the exit. You don't want to be doing that too much, obviously. Tire life's going to be momentously important here today at this racetrack that's so abrasive and so abusive to the tire carcass, but in qualifying it'll be of little consequence to them. Kerrigan the quickest thus far with a 55.285. Ted Edwards the better part of half a second down. Hutchins third, who is just about 3/4 of a second down, and then Jones, Ireland, and Burnett, 6 cars that have taken times. Schultze has earned a lap, I'm pretty sure, but it was an invalid lap and has not counted. They'll be looking to get a time on the board. Another series, another abbreviated silver field in comparison to the pros, but the silvers won't mind this extra space out here, will they really?
Yeah, so track space is always a crucial thing in qualifying, isn't it? And that's exactly why we, of course, split up the pros and silvers, of course, indicated on the left-hand side by the number board. A grey background indicates a silver driver and a white background indicates a pro driver. So as you said, Jesse, just I stand corrected, 8 silver drivers. You've got Malcolm all the way down in P26 at the moment as well, not on the board. So very few numbers of silver drivers, which should in theory, ignite the pros into their own battles. Of course, the two separate championships being run at the moment. We saw it last time at Kyalami, a lot of battles, you know, in different categories where we had silvers fighting pros, pros fighting silvers, and, you know, just chaos ensued up and down the grid as we run aboard with Tim Island. A very cautious approach through the bus stop in a loop chicane, should we say, before it gets to the long bank right-hander. You know, this corner can be very harsh on the tyres, and temperature being quite low today, 18 degrees in the air, 19 on the track. We should have no issues, hopefully, with tyres overheating, but it's crucial to get that front left tyre in the optimum pressure window. If it's too low, and you risk damaging through the other half of the lap, and too high, of course, you have some very inconsistent grip in these right-handers. And Watkins Glen's a bit of a weird circuit, Jesse, with the elevation as we come through, of course, turn 7. Almost carry a lot more speed into the corner than you realistically think you can, because of course as you go uphill, gravity takes effect and kind of drags the car back a little bit. So it's almost similar, isn't it, to Bathurst turn 2, where of course you can really throw the car through there as well. So drivers are going to have to be very brave tonight if they want to make passes and they want to make them stick in the race.
We talk about the heel corner is the one you're talking about, the right-hand uphill turn, and you don't brake nearly as early as you would think. You brake somewhere around, maybe even after the 50-meter board, and then you chuck it up the hill, and it starts to rotate, and then you're back on the throttle before you can ever see your apex on the outside or where you need to hit, because such a weird turn. It's cambered in, and then it's uphill quite steeply as well. You're losing speed all the way, so you need to be on the throttle quite early. And those who do that best, they're going to give themselves into tow which is the next corner name, by the way. They're going to give themselves an opportunity to get beside somebody. If you mess those corners up in the boot section of the racetrack, it can be a little bit of an issue. You find yourself defending your spot quite easily indeed. Kerrigan still the top of the heap with a 55.285. Brent Jones has went to P2, 1.3 seconds up on behind Callum Kerrigan. I don't suspect we'll see Jones back out in the pack. He has gone to the pit lane, and with 12 minutes left to play, all the laps have to be done inside I think it's the 10-minute mark. They have to be off the racetrack. So Hutchins, Edwards, Schultze, who has set a lap now, Tim Ireland, and now Burnett, the drivers who have set time. And I believe that's everybody in the silver field here today. Getting a little closer at the start, but not here for Ted Edwards. He must have went over the line and invalidated, and in frustration has slammed the car into the wall. That's qualifying over for Ted Edwards in the number 8.
Qualifying over indeed. It could just be a fast way, maybe, Jesse, of course, stopping the car so he can return to the pits fairly quickly and maximize the 10-minute break, I guess, that they're getting, of course, between the qualifying and the grid. Sam Burnett currently on your screens, looking like a good improvement through the first couple of sectors. He's coming through the latter half of the lap in the 888 VRMA car, of course, through turn 8, the hill, up to turn 9, where it kind of cuts back onto what I'm going to don as the NASCAR loop. Of course, they take the tighter line, they miss out shoot and kind of come straight down this back straight all the way down to turn 10 when they run the NASCAR layout. But a few more corners for the GT guys tonight. Sam Burnett keeping it way within the lines on turn 10. You can go all the way over the curb and some almost there, and be careful of the wall on the outside as he clips it. That's going to harm his momentum coming towards the line. It's looking like a good improvement anyway. Sam Burnett across the line, good improvement, 157.447, although not enough to fire himself ahead of Tim Ireland. And of course, we've got a couple more cars still on their laps. We've got the number 28 of Callum Kerrigan still looking to try and improve, although first couple of sectors not looking so great. And Richard Hutchins as well is out there trying to improve, although again, first couple of sectors not looking so great for them. So more than likely the silver grid is as determined on the left-hand side. As 5 seconds time, of course, we're going to see the pro cars lining up towards pit exit and trying to get as much track position as they can. Of course, a lot of pro drivers on the field tonight. Some 21 cars, I want to say, Jesse, my math is correct here, and it's going to be very competitive, trying to find space. And we already see that.
And here comes Dale Earnhardt pressuring Jeff Gordon through the S's here at Watkins Glen. I kid you not, this happened 1 year exactly at this racetrack. They weren't in Ginetta's, of course. They were in Monte Carlo's. But rather besides, this exact thing happened here. Can the golden boy, the wonder boy, Jeff Gordon, outdo the Intimidator? I've always wanted to call that race. I remember watching that when I was a kid.
I love seeing these NASCAR themed liveries, and a little bit of a tweak to the Grimbrench car tonight. Of course, those of you that were here last week would know green wheels were not the option, but they are on the car now, so it's going to be a standout livery for us up here in the box. Of course, you've got the Sim Brothers in the train as well, and I'm wondering, Jesse, are we going to see a little bit of bump drafting between the teams? Of course, we've got the Kaiju efforts, we've got the Sim Brothers efforts there as well, and everybody can work together and give each other a little bit of a slingshot up through the S's and down towards the inner loop. And Phil Roberts staying way out of the way there of a Sim Brothers car, trying to get ahead, and everybody's a little bit bunched up here, so I'm sure
this is way too close.
We're going to see the queuing train surely coming through turn 10 and 11, and Grimlith already bailing out of the train to filter in towards the back, as Jordan Daly just behind there making space very sensibly as well. And another of the rebound racing cars, that's either Joe Dorba or Carlos Calata Yodikidu, Roscan there. And here's the bunching that we see so much at LFM, of course, and in this race there, and they're qualifying, and the train forms at the last corner. And of course, only 8 minutes on the clock, Jesse. The more you bunch up, of course, the less time you're going to have to set that perfect lap.
It certainly is, and they are allowed, cannot impede other cars, of course, but they are allowed to slow down, find a little bit of space. In fact, they're encouraged to not be too close or too far away from, too close to other cars. So that is fine as long as they're not impeding anybody else's lap. And of course, it being the first time through, they will not be doing that at all as per the rule book. So everybody out there now doing a lap or getting ready to start a lap. A couple of cars have already had a little spot of drama. The 30th place car, that's Billy Octane. And yeah, that's the real Billy Octane, the man from years ago. Some old timers will remember the days where he used to light up the scoreboards and take home wins. And he's back today here in the Ginetta Cup, but he will start dead last on the field. He's been disqualified. I would imagine that had something to do, either that was self-inflicted on purpose so that they could start at the back, or that was given out by the stewards. We'll be able to confirm that at the conclusion of qualifying here today. He could have been disqualified, of course, John, for either lining up, leaving the pit lane too soon, something of that sort, being out there on the track when the Silvers were on their qualifying run. Could have been any number of that. Could have been deliberate. All you got to do is reverse down pit lane a little bit. It'll auto disqualify you. And sometimes drivers like to have a little fun. They do that so they can start at the back of the field to last the first challenge, I guess, but only time will tell. First lap's getting ready to come across the line here. Not a whole lot of invalidations looking at the map, only 2 of them.
Yeah, everybody looking very competitive through the last corner. Andy Boardman, of course, the Greeks Weasel Racing number 69. He'll set the benchmark time of a 1:54.985. Nico Kumpu not too far behind, and Phil Roberts has been looking very competitive as well in practice. Joe Dorba with the James Bond .007 off top time, and Walerius just behind as well. And Menes Rodriguez with a stonking lap time out of the box with a 1:54.682. Qualifying is already looking very competitive, Jesse, and these guys haven't even got these tyres into their optimum window. Matthew Kingston Lee towards the top end of the field, Jesse.
Well, the best last name in sim racing, setting a top 3 time here. Menes Rodriguez, you've got Nordquist, and now Kingston Lee. Several cars automatically resetting to the pit lane without setting a valid lap. Raphael Huell being one of those. I suspect something amiss on the number 21 Ginetta that has called them back to the pit lane. Rebound Racing's Carlos Caladia, it was in our chat during the silver qualifying, and said, "Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I dedicate my drive-through penalty to you." He's expecting to get a drive-through today. I wonder if that's based on what he's done in practice thus far. Let's hope that's not actually the case.
Yeah, let's hope not there. And I wonder who Billy Octane dedicates his drive-through penalty or disqualification to, should we say, in the qualifying. I've been doing some digging. It was, in fact, I think, for going out in the wrong session. Of course, Billy Octane new to the championship. First time he has signed up for the season tonight, and maybe just not familiarised himself with the rule set. And he said, "Don't worry, I'm rubbish anyway." Here's what he said in the chat. So
I don't buy that one bit.
Beating himself down a little bit, but yeah, I for one do not buy that for a single moment. Nico Kumpu, meanwhile, for Rebound Racing, currently in P11. Looked like he had a not so ideal first lap time, but he's next to come across the line. He goes straight up to pole position with a 1:54.375, beating Andy Boardman's second lap. Valerius through in second place as well. Look at those margins towards the top. Phil Roberts in the mix as well. This is going to be.
Why are they perfect increments?
It's going to be such a competitive grid. It's an oddly satisfying increment board, isn't it, Jesse?
A 54.375 for Rebound Racing's Nico Kumpu. 4/100ths of a second back to Valerius. 5/100ths of a second back to Boardman. And 7/100ths back to Phil Roberts for Kaiju. This is so close at the top. The top four settled by less than 3/4 of a tenth of a second. Menez Rodriguez looking to improve, and so is Les Stevenson. In fact, they will. A 54.8 for Dropping the Hammer Racing. That drops them into 7th place. Menez Rodriguez, Dalber, and Stevenson. The next cars after that, near enough, deadlock at the top. This racetrack does this, John. It will chew you up and spit you out, but it also doesn't allow you to get away with a whole lot. There is sort of a maximum lap time that you can get out of a GT4 car around here, and I'm not saying that we're approaching that. I'm just saying the Ginetta might be approaching its sort of natural limit, and you get that with GT3 racing, but even more so GT4s, because they get so stacked together. I don't think we're done. We can have a couple of more cars within a tenth of a second by the time we're done with this qualifying here today, as McFluid for Flying Hellfish goes to P11 there.
Yeah, Snooty with a great improvement there up into P11, just outside the top 10, and this man is ahead of him, Christian Lindgren, for the Sim Brothers Racing. Of course, last time we ran the Ginetta season, obviously season 1, was when Wolf Matuszka took honours over Marius Torzidlo and Christoph Verstappen in Pro, and Silver saw Christian Lindgren, this man here, just shot himself up to P4 with a 1:54.417. He took silver honours last time out, so very well rehearsed in this car, and of course beat Conrad Jetson and Dominic Fekete to the honours, and of course a good list of names in the season tonight. Victor Nordquist for another Sim Brothers car, shall we say, coming across the line now. See where he can place himself in relation to Christian Lindgren and Menez Rodriguez. Slap bang in the middle, P6, with a nice Sim Brothers kind of gaggle inside the top 10. Of course, Valerius is the highest placed Sim Brothers car, and Matthias Bayron is the next Sim Brothers car to come across the line. Currently sat on a 1:55.572, all the way down in P19, looking to improve certainly this lap to see if he can get himself at least ahead of the silver drivers, and does go better but doesn't go ahead of Jones, who's the next car in the list, with Callum Kerrigan, so he's going to be clawing on for another lap or so. And Joe Dorber in the 777 Rebound Racing, looking quite good on the first couple of sectors, although hemorrhaging a lot of out of tow, of course, over the crest of the hill, through the boot and down towards the hill. Again, it's crucial to get runs out of these corners, as we said earlier on in the broadcast, Jesse. Of course, Joe Dorber was 0.25 up coming out of turn 7. He's gone into turn 9, and it's not looking so good now. He's 0.01 down on his lap time at the moment, so undone all of his hard work in just one corner, and that's how crucial it is to get good runs out of these turns. And all the meanwhile, just behind, of course, one of the Sim Brothers car might be benefiting a little bit from some slipstream along the way, and be careful of the wall, runs it all the way to the safer barrier on the outside of turn 11, coming to the line to maximize everything, but just not enough to improve there. He will stay where he is, P8. And another Rebound Racing car, of course, in the guise of Roskam. Again, a familiar name here for us here at RCI on Mondays. Currently in the number 96, all the way down in P14, just behind Snooner McFluid and just ahead of Ground Zero Racing, Tom Shipston. He's looking to try and improve this time by. Although the last sector not looking so good. Although a small gain. No, it's a big loss coming out of turn 11. This won't be an improvement as the checkered flag drops. And that is all she wrote for Roscam. Meanwhile, towards the top of the board, Andy Boardman will be your provisional pole sitter, providing nobody else on a valid lap can go better. Nico Kumpu of Walerius looking very close with Phil Roberts and Christian Lindgren before we have a big gap back to Victor Nordqvist. And then he has another train sort of behind him in the form of Menes Rodriguez, Phil Malta, Dorber and Stevenson rounding out the top 10 so far. It's looking very competitive on the board tonight, Jesse. And I think we're going to have a good kind of, a train forming, should we say, between the top 5 and then the next top 5. So we could see some good old-fashioned bump drafting racing here tonight.
Yeah, I hope for the drivers involved that we don't have any bump drafting around here, though I've seen them do it at the 2 previous races thus far, so it'd be hard to think that they wouldn't be doing that here tonight. I don't think the gaps are big enough. The only one that really has a decent enough gap is Andy Boardman with that 54.165. Everybody else is way too close. That's enough that you could draft up in those sort of limits. So we'll see how that goes. You're going to see a lot of that here tonight, I reckon. Huge groups of cars just training by, as you said. Menes Rodriguez coming to the line. Not the last car, but one of the last cars to finish their lap. The Sim Brothers Racing 464, who I believe hit the wall a lap ago, does improve a 54.565. That will put them in 7th. Dale Earnhardt in 17th.
Yeah, Dale Earnhardt indeed, and that's senior, of course, not junior in the form of Lilith. And these are your final results on the screen at the moment, of course. Andy Boardman, Nico Kumpu lock out your first row with Walerius, Phil Roberts behind Christian Linger and Joe Dorber, and Menes Rodriguez just behind them. Victor Nordqvist, Phil Malta and Stevenson rounding out, of course, the top 10. We then got Calatayud, Kingston Lee, McFlood, Roscam, Shipston, Kerrigan, Lilith, Raphael Huell, Jones, Byron, Hutchings, Redford promoted up into pro. You might remember, of course, he was a silver driver just last week. We then got Ted Edwards, Jackson, Malcolm, Ireland, Burnett, Daly, and Billy Octane in the back end of the grid, of course, after the penalty, should we say, for going out in the wrong session. So a bit of a last to first for Billy tonight, and that's going to be all eyes on him, I would say, on that one. It's, of course, when the cars grid up that we do have a look at the championship standings. And, of course, we do have pro and silver to go through tonight. So while Ash readies them, here we go on the screen very fast indeed. Andy Boardman at the head of the championship, of course, with no Miguel Reno Ritchie after signing out just last week. Andy Boardman with 119 points to his name. Next closest rival, Joe Dorber with 96. Phil Roberts with 84. Walerius with 79. Nico Kumpu on 76. And just behind him, Victor Nordqvist on 74. Tom Shipston, followed by Matthew Kingston Lee, 2 points adrift in 7th and 8th. Christian Lindgren, of course, last year's silver champion, all the way down in P9, just inside the top 10 with 57. And Miguel Martins with 50 points will round out your top 10 in pro. Rounding on to the second page, of course, Grim Lilith on 48. Roscam on 42, and just behind him, Menes Rodriguez on 41. Mike Redford, of course, after promotion last week on 37. Aaron Jackson with 36, and Snooder McFlew just behind them with 35. So good gaggle of drivers there, just 1 point adrift from each other. Richard Phillips on 29, who isn't with us, unfortunately, tonight. Len on 25, Jake Boswell on 19, and Matthias Bayron on 17 points. Rounds out your top 20 in pro. It's a good old list here tonight. And, of course, Carlos Calatayud with 15. Rudy Philmalter, a late join into the season with 12. Benjamin Schumann on 9. Nicholas Nordqvist on 8. Jordan Daly after the terrible race at Kyle Army last time on 4 points. Raphael Huell and Billy Octane, new sign-ups in the championship yet to score. And Miguel Reno Ritchie, Matt Stevens and John Aracer have signed out of the championship and will take no further part. Now then, on to the silver honours, of course. Our very own Kevin Boss at the helm of this one on 130 points. Callum Kerrigan on 110 and Ted Edwards on 106. So silver looking very competitive for the first 3 steps of the championship. Matthew Malcolm on 88 with Tim Ireland on 78. Lauren De Jong on 71 with Brent Jones tied with Pavel on 62. Richard Hutchins on 58 and Frederick Rude on 40 rounds out your top 10 in silver. And of course, low numbers in silver tonight, so capitalize all that you can if you have turned up. Sam Burnett on 31, Sarah Stant on 28, Jerry Stewart on 0, John Schultzer, of course, on 0, new sign up for tonight, and Alexander van der Voda has unfortunately signed out of the Silver Championship and will take no further part. So, good points on offer tonight, Jesse, for the silver guys. Of course, all they have to do really is avoid a lot of the pro field, should we say, in their fights. Callum Kerrigan at the helm with Jones separated by 2 pro cars just behind. Byron divides Jones from Hutchins, and Redford then divides Hutchins from Edwards. So they can keep their nose clean and, stay out of trouble. There's a good haul of points on the table today for the silvers, and equally at the top of the pro category, it's going to be very, very competitive with some of the lap times we saw in qualifying.
Yeah, it certainly is. The big missing piece in the puzzle, of course, is Kevin Boss away at work this week, so unable to participate in this round of the championship. The middle round, of course, just 5 races in the series, this, of course, being race number 3. So Boss is going to lose the championship lead because of this. He would have known that going in. He's had such a miraculous drive thus far. This silver field is going to be just as mixed up as it was prior to today's race as it will be post-race today. It just, with Boss falling down the field, keep in mind there is no drop round in this championship, so all 5 results will count in this series. Callum Kerrigan stands to gain the most out of it. Can Ted Edwards respond? What about Tim Ireland? Maybe Matthew Malcolm doing some work here. And what about the pro field? Keep in mind, 2 different classes, pro and silver. If you're at the top of the silver game, you're intermingled and sprinkled in with some of those pros. How do you drive them, especially at such a high-speed, technical racetrack where one mistake can lose you seconds at a time? How hard do you press those pro guys, and vice versa? If you are a pro guy having to pass silver cars, how do you deal with that this evening? And I do mean this evening, after all. 60 minutes of racing just gone after 7 p.m., 7:05 in the evening here in sim time in northern New York. And let's go back to the front of the field. Boardman out qualifying everybody by the tune of 2/10, including Nico Kumpu and Valerius and Phil Roberts. If you're one of those cars, John, on the first couple of rows, how do you approach turn 1, that tricky 90-degree right-hander? It's downhill, it's cambered. You can use that to your advantage. You can convert an inside pass, but I find it's often safer to go around the outside of this turn. So if you are Valerius, maybe Phil Roberts, even Lindgren, how would you line up? How would you play this early on in lap 1?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Like you say, of course, you're downhill towards the right, hammered on the inside, and the outside isn't where you want to be. So Andy Boardman, of course, he's got to fixate himself on the gantry and the starting flag, and as soon as it hits the green, he's got to punch the throttle and try and basically drive away before he gets to turn 1. Of course, if Nico Kumpu or any other chasing drivers get to and even a nose up the inside, they're going to be on the favoured side of the track. They're going to get the slingshot essentially through the cambered corner, and then it's going to be one of those things where you get the better run, and of course the long run then through the S's up the hill all the way round to the inner loop before you get to obviously turns kind of 5 at the back end of the circuit where we are now. It's a long old run, and if you hamper yourself in turn 1, you're going to be swallowed up by the impeding train just behind. We've got Jordan Daly, interestingly, as well at the back of the grid, Jesse. I was wondering,
did it on purpose.
He did not, so maybe joining Billy Octane in sympathy to try and duke it out and cut their
teammates,
way through the
friends,
field.
Makes sense. I like that.
This could make for an interesting broadcast, of course, if we keep our eye on the front and the kind of back of the field and see where they end up. Come.
Oh, they're not going to be back there for long, John.
Oh,
I
no.
can
I know
guarantee
they're not.
that. It's going to be a race to the top. You know, talking about chat, we're looking at chat as we always are here on RCI TV. We're glad to have you with us on a Monday evening. Hope you're well wherever you are. Jay Bubbins has chimed in saying this looks like fun. He needs to get a little bit of pace. And then literally everybody in chat dogpiling on Bubbins saying, no, 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 sign up. It doesn't matter. And they're absolutely right. Chat, you're absolutely golden. Doesn't matter what your skill level is. We have a split. We have a category for you. Just look at the spread in this one race as a reference point. So chat, gold star for the day there. Get Bubbins in the race. And a lot of the competitors joining us as well. If you can still hear us, good luck on the race you're about to set off on. It's going to be a fun one. Hopefully a clean one down into turn number 1 for the first time. Of course, a race restart is a part of the plan if a large portion of the field gets involved in an incident. It has happened here twice before, especially in the S's. We hope it doesn't come to that today.
Yeah, fingers crossed it doesn't, as drivers, of course, generate the last of the temperature in their tires, jabbing the brakes, trying to get these Pirellis really up to the best that they can, given the slow pace of the outlap. 18 degrees in the air, 18 degrees down on the track, and we are green here tonight for round 3 at Watkins Glen. Andy Boardman with a good reaction to the start, holds that inside line down to turn 1. Of course, Nico Kumpu drops in just behind him and follows Walerius and Roberts. And of course, Joe Dorber looks like he's trying to make up a position on Christian Lindgren as well. But this is where the slipstream begins, Jesse. Through the S's, up the hill as they snake to the right, snake to the left, and back to the right. You see the pack impeding in the background with the Sim Brothers' efforts.
Oh,
in there.
Tim
We've got
Ireland.
Rebound racing there as well. And something's happened to Tim Ireland. The 141 is stopped on circuit. Everybody single file through the inner loop. We're going to get a race replay here. Let's see what happened on the outside of the long bank corner. And that's Billy Octane into the back. I think Malcolm was involved in that one as well. And that's a hard impact into the wall for Tim Ireland. And straight back to the pit lane. Probably sensible. They went 3 wide into the bus stop. Les Stevenson on the inside takes the rallycross
Self-preservation line
through there. And I think that was Ross Cam as well for Rebound Racing up the inside into the bank corner. And I think it was, or was it? It could have been Calatayud actually. It could have been Carlos chasing through on Les just ahead of them as the sector gates, of course, all update. It was Carlos in the Rebound Racing car with Les as they came through the inner loop. This is Daly, I think, on the inside.
Oh, Martin, no!
Over the curb he goes. And that's Aaron Jackson in the Valvoline car as Daly swoops around the outside through the chute corner and of course towards the toe of the boot. He does remain the position ahead. It looks like a very calm lap, Jesse, although I don't want to speak too soon. Of course, Tim Ireland, the biggest casualty of lap 1, but everybody's still relatively bunched together on that circuit map, and it's only going to get spicy up from here on out.
Yeah, I don't know how calm it's been. We've seen a couple of replays that have shown us that it's been quite chaotic for some cars. Luckily, just majorly isolated incidents between a couple of the cars, and everybody else was able to get away quite cleanly indeed. The 69 still leads. There was no drama near the front of this field, and starting to pull away already as Andy Boardman on Nico Kumpu. Walerius and Roberts didn't gain anything, neither did Christian Lindgren and Joe Dauber, but that's rather beside the point. All of these cars in the top 10 got away pretty much unscathed. Going back to Les Stevenson's job for dropping the hammer in the chicane that he did on lap 1, that was out of self-defense, realizing the moment that he wasn't going to have anywhere to go. The car on the outside was not going to give him any more room, so he just ditched it over the curb. Now, that's smart driving by the veteran Les Stevenson. That's also bad because that's probably a track cut that he got on lap 1, and there was not a whole lot he could have done about that. He was sort of on that island. He had to dig himself out of it, and luckily he did without further incident, but still, potentially a track limit that early. You only get 3 freebies throughout the course of the race, and having to give up one there, you're kind of lucky you were able to do that, and at the same time, kind of frustrated you were in a position where that had to happen.
Yeah, that's it. And as you say, Jesse, of course, the track cut penalties are even harsher on lap 1 as ACC, of course, figures out the delta and the pace that you should be on to determine whether it was a cut or wasn't a cut later on down the line. So almost certainly going to be a cut for Les Stevenson there. And of course, if the Pirelli tyres weren't quite up to temperature or in that operating window, that might have damaged the tyres. And could see Les Stevenson maybe taking a set of tires. A big handful of understeer for Phil Roberts through the penultimate corner there. That's not going to be good on the front, and you see how much curb everybody's using in the background and the foreground as well. Les Stevenson certainly taking a more cautious approach around turn 10, maybe to try and clean up the line and tuck himself in behind Carlos Calatayud. Of course, Phil Malta just ahead of them in the green machine, almost in no man's land at the moment, not being pressured enough by Carlos, but equally just not quite close enough to Victor Nordquist up the road to capitalize on the slipstream. But we've got a couple of Sim Brothers cars starting to form partnership, should we say. Of course, the Victor Nordquist and Menez Rodriguez car, they're in line of stern as well, and I'm wondering if we're going to see any team orders here tonight. Nico Kumpu, fastest lap of the race thus far, and I'm sure that will change later on as we see a move, I think, in the background. Kingston Lee and Snooder McFlude are going side by side in the chicane. I think very cautiously there, Kingston Lee giving up the inside. We've seen cars go 2x2 through the inner loop before, Jesse, and sometimes it's not always the prettiest of things to watch.
Let's take a look at a replay here and see what happened between Baron. Oh, a little bit of hip and shoulder check and a little bit extra there on the exit of the corner. That's coming through the chute, entering the boot of the circuit there, and we expect to see a lot more of that before the end of the day. But that was an unfortunate situation they were in, but well held to keep from looping that car. It's so easy when you drop a tire there and you're on the throttle to get it out of control. Of course, a little bit easier because it's a GT4 car, but also easier for me to say sitting up here in the box. A little argy-bargy, that's kind of what we expected to see. There's a car off in between the heel and the return to the short track, but they have gotten back together. I have no idea what car that may have been, but some drama had befallen them. They've got it going now and have ceased falling back through the running order. We talked about the potential of having quite a long train down the racetrack. We have had exactly that. Nico Kumpu again with the quickest lap, and what I find most interesting about that is didn't really gain a whole lot on our leader of the race, Andy Boardman, despite the fact being quicker. I would imagine, I haven't seen the timing between the two, but I imagine it was a marginal difference between the two. But that just shows you how small the tolerances are here today.
Yeah, very small margins, as you say, Jesse. Last time by, Boardman was a 154.6 and Nico Kumpu a 154.8. Although I don't think Boardman's lap was valid. Otherwise, that would, of course, take his top time away. And Les Stevenson, very slow, coming down the back straight. Possibly in chaos in the inner loop. That's Jeff Gordon in the middle of that one, being collected.
Everybody's going off.
Tom Shipston off as well, and chaos has unfolded. What was a relatively calm start, Jesse? 7 minutes in, chaos has erupted in the bus stop chicane.
Mike Redford's involved, the 96 is involved, Phil Roberts. Oh my goodness, did one car clip the inside Armco and set everything in motion? The Mark Martin car is off as well. Everybody streaming through there. You can't really see past that guardrail to begin with. Something happened prior to all that. I think Carlos Calatayud and Les Stevenson had contact as well, coming through the S's, and then it all kicked off there. Kaiju Racing's Phil Roberts in the Jeff Gordon liveried car, and that car is super damaged. There's definitely tow link damage to that car, and they have elected to tow that machine back to pit lane. So has Raphael Huell that was involved in that accident, and it's all come undone here on lap 3 or 4. Let's take another look.
Yeah, another replay here. Let's have a look. Les Stevenson, it's already unfolded by the time he was on the scene. Aaron Jackson coming in way too hot there into the back of Les. I think Les was trying to wait maybe to give a position back and just ended up being kind of collateral damage. But I think Richard Hutchins, I don't want to point fingers at the moment, but he might have clipped it too close on the inside because the golf car was just kind of parked on the apex. Not sure what happened here. This is Joe Dorber into the side of one of the Sim Brothers car, and it was a good 3-tapper and then drove off. Hopefully going to lift off after the replay has ended, but I'm not too sure. Of course, that might have been Victor Nordquist, the number 19 Sim Brothers entry. That's the next kind of Sim Brothers car behind. Of course, Menez Rodriguez ahead. They were in that kind of little train beginning to form, and I think that quite possibly was Victor Nordquist we saw there on the replay. But some big names involved in that accident. Of course, we said Phil Roberts immediately towing back to pits. Raphael Huell involved. Carlos Calatayud, Jackson Hutchins, just to name a few. Redford, we did see him
stopped again and gone back to pit lane.
Very strange indeed for Carlos there. Maybe just calling it a day. Maybe realizing he's lost so much time and he's just going to push the car behind the wall and maybe just cut his losses. Of course, still 51 or so minutes to go, so still plenty of time on the clock. But of course, with that mandatory pit stop that we do in force in the pit window time, it's going to delay even more. So maybe just seeing that he sees no end to it in a sense, as we see another race replay here. This is between Ted Edwards in the silver field. That's a hip and shoulder check through one of the fastest sections of the circuit. Sam Burnett there doing very well to hold on to that Ginetta and keep it out the Armco, and more importantly, keep the momentum up and across the S's down towards the inner loop chicane. That was some the lightest of contacts, Jesse, but at that kind of speed, it's the biggest of impacts.
Yeah, he's lucky he didn't go off into the dirt. If he would have went off in the dirt, that would have been day done and over with. There's no recovery from that. Ted Edwards for Race Ventura, they have taken the lead in the silver class. Kerrigan down to third. You've got Jones in second place. So you can almost respect the urgency of Edwards there to make passes and get by other cars, but definitely not a fan of Ted Edwards now. I forgot whom that was. Was that Burnett that was contacted? I'm not sure. But otherwise, not great coming through the S's. Very commonplace to have that kind of contact because you could take different arcs up the S's, and that was certainly the case there. Edwards trying to get a move on because that purple car right behind him, that is for position and the lead in class. And keep in mind for Ted Edwards, this could be potentially the championship lead on the line halfway through the champ.
Yeah, absolutely so. And with such small silver numbers, you're going to net a massive haul of points here. And it wasn't Burnett as we thought in the Triple Eight. It was in fact Jones in the number 6 car that had an impact with Ted.
Contact for the lead.
Yeah, again, very similar liveries, and it's super easy to get tripped up here in the box when we do see such a thing like this here on your screens. Of course, we've got Menez Rodriguez on board. Ahead of him, you've got Christian Lindgren, and then ahead of him, you've got Bjorn Walerius, all in the same kind of coloured car, different coloured rims, and their nameplate, of course, underneath the rear spoiler, being the only difference of the livery. So it's going to be quite hard to spot up here in the box. But Sim Brothers running quite well at the moment in 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Completely oblivious of what's happened behind them the last 2 laps, by the way.
Yeah, they're probably looking at the circuit map thinking, oh, the train split up after about 12 minutes of racing, when in fact, of course, chaos ensued after 7 minutes.
No team orders here.
Down into turn 1. No team orders indeed. Menez Rodriguez up the inside of Christian Lindgren, runs himself wide out of the banking, and that's exactly what we spoke about down into turn 1. Of course, the inside line, the much more favoured turn, and now Menez Rodriguez, we know in the past, can drive a slippery race car. Cast your mind back, Jesse, to the Porsche Cup at Monza. Do you remember how much Menez Rodriguez was dumping everybody on the straights just because he dialed all of the wing and the aero out of the car? And I'm sure he's going to opt for a similar tactic here tonight. A slow flash of the lights from Christian Lindgren as they come through the inner loop. No team orders, as you said here, Jesse. Everybody racing for fun, and that's exactly what we do here at RCI. So if you do want to get involved, of course, head on over to racerci.com, where you can check out all of our events at any time and hit up the pre-qualifying and get yourself involved. There's a few of you I know in chat that are on the fence thinking, oh, I'm not sure if I've got the pace. Sign up. That's exactly what we're here for. Get your name down, get some pre-qualifying, see where you sit in the table. We'll assign you a class, and hopefully you too can have some fun on the circuit. And fantastic to see, isn't it? The Sim Brothers, always a good turnout, whether it be endurance or this single driver entry stuff that we do host quite regularly here. It's one of those we always expect to see a good show from these guys.
Certainly is. I just want to go back to the Sim Brothers real quick. I love having an organization like the Sim Brothers involved in RCI racing, and it doesn't really tend to matter what it is. They show up, and they show up in force, and they make it look easy a lot of the time, to be completely fair. But these drivers for Sim Brothers, they have never had team orders. We've seen them get into each other, fighting for podium spots in the past, take each other out, then come in the chat and go, we explained it away. It's hard racing. and they race each other as hard as they race the other competitors. You've got to respect that, and you could see that Lindgren, who got overtaken right there, Lindgren immediately went back on the attack, had a look, was flashing the lights, doing everything you would do to any other opponent. I love when the visor goes down, whatever livery's on the car, whatever name's on the car, all that goes out of the window. It's all about racing whomever your next opponent is and hoping for the best outcome. Now, at the immediate front of the field, just to keep you abreast of what's been going on there, it's been quite interesting. Remember, Nico Kumpu had the quickest lap on the racetrack a few laps ago. That was taken back over by Andy Boardman. Nico Kumpu fought back, and now, unless I'm very much mistaken, Kumpu still has the quickest lap. So that's the fourth or fifth time the fast lap has changed hands in the opening stanza of this race. They're within 1 second of each other. It is a cat and mouse game at the front of this field.
Yeah, it's very small margins as well on those best laps, Jesse. Andy Boardman with a 1:54.575 and Nico Kumpu with a 54.542. So we're talking literally hair's widths on some of these times. And again, with Walerius and Menez Rodriguez, 7.65 for Walerius and an 8.65 for Menez Rodriguez. Christian Lindgren with a 7.52. So potential best laps at the helm of the field are very, very marginal. So it's anybody's race to gain and anybody's race to lose as well. I think it's going to be a case of who can, of course, keep it the cleanest, who can maintain pace for the longest. Again, we saw last time at Kyalami, of course, drivers getting involved in battles that weren't really their fight to be taken. And we saw a very sensible move, of course, from Phil Roberts to pit the car early, bring it down pit lane, and of course the fight resumed or kept going on circuit between the top three. And then before you know it, Phil Roberts came out of the pits after the pit window had closed and suddenly was at the helm of the field. So, you know, it's all about choosing your battles and choosing it right as Victor Nordquist swoops up the inside there of Rudy Philmolter into turn one. Of course, Rudy in the number 4 green machine just behind there, and Nordquist can now set his sights on Joe just up the road, of course, after the contact earlier. Jesse, I'm not sure this battle is going to be all too friendly should they meet once again on track.
Well, we'll see if this continues to be the play, as there's now a second between the top two in the race, but I wouldn't really look too much into that. Pit stops and all that withstanding at this time. The window, of course, not open yet, but now everybody thinking about what they're going to do and when they're going to come in. That will be almost certainly based on where they're running on the track, how the race has gone thus far. Not a lot to complain about. If you're inside the top 10 right now, there's not been a whole lot to complain about. It's gone pretty much to plan. If you are Menez Rodriguez, you've done an excellent job of gaining spots for yourself. Walerius hanging strong in third place, but has also a little bit of a touch from the lead too. But other than that, it's all gone to plan. Jordan Daly for Race Ventura in the 197. Remember, they started 29th, 30th place. They're up into 12th now. That's all on pace. No pit stop, no strategery, none of that. They are in P12.
Yeah, looking quite good at the moment, aren't they? They've got nobody ahead, nobody behind, so they're really able to focus and drill in those fast laps in the number 197. Of course, the next car up the road is Matthew Kingston-Lee, and he's 1.2 seconds to the good ahead. And, of course, Ross Cam behind, 3.9 seconds to the good on that one. So nobody ahead, nobody behind. It's visor down and focus kind of drilled in, and a very stark difference to last week for Daly. And Daly's in the wall in the background, Jesse. I don't know if you saw that big lick into the safer barrier just out of shot. So that's going to be some damage down the left-hand side of his car, as we see Grim Lilith, or is that Dale Earnhardt Sr., who knows, coming out of turn one, running the track limit somewhat over the curb. Not sure if that was a penalty, but trying to get all they can to fend off the charging, terrifying face of Snooty McFlude for the Flying Hellfish Tater's car. The number 1 tucks in the slipstream. Grim's going to go a little bit defensive, going to force the number 1 around the long way in the first section of the inner loop, and Snooty very sensibly backs out, tries to get the smoothest line possible through the chicane. And it's amazing how small these cars are versus the curbs in the bus stop. The bus stop curbs nearly outsize the Ginetta G55, and coming down into the chute now. It's going to be battle on for the third sector. Which driver is going to be faster? But I know for one, Jesse, I would not want to look at the front of Snooty's car in my mirror. at all.
Snooty McFlude is often a driver that loves to weaponize their car, not by using it as a missile, but they use it as I mean, that is not something. It's the same principle of putting a face on your race car to be intimidating. They just do it with what I assume to be lipstick of some variety and some eyeballs that definitely need some rest, and maybe some Visine on top of that. Not a sponsor, but you know who is a sponsor of RCI? Kevin Boss just gifted 5 memberships to the channel. He wants an uwu. Uwu. I'm not an anime. I can't do it appropriately, but uwu indeed. Justin, Shanti, Bori, Kurtz, and Dave Marsh. If you're in chat, give a thanks to Kevin Boss, who's just gifted you membership. Enjoy your emotes. Please spam them in chat. We're not the kind that gets annoyed by that sort of thing. But big thank you again to Kevin Boss. Not in the race today, but still making an impact on stream. John, let me hear you give an uwu one time.
Uwu.
Uwu? That's as good as you're getting for me. That's as close as it is. Oh, a little bit of a mistake from Dale Earnhardt right there. Earnhardt now under the ire of Snooty McFlude. This time covered off quite well, mind you. Going a little bit off of the line, but McFlude going down to the inside anyway. Will he back out? Yes, he will. And they end up going through the bus stop. Single file. That looked like McFlude. It could have been on for them, but not quite enough overlap. A little bit of a mistake. Went a little deep, did Grim Lilith right there, but didn't cost him anything. An excellent recovery and excellently driven by both of these cars. It could have ended in disaster for them, but it didn't. They were able to sort it out amongst themselves. Pit window, 20-minute pit window is now open. Who's going to take first?
Yeah, 20-minute pit window open indeed. And just to remind the folks at home of the rule set for the Ginetta Cup, of course, it's a fixed refueling window. So whether you add 1 litre, 50 litre, 100 litres, it's still the same. As Matthew Malcolm goes very wide there, exploring all the track limits.
New line
for the
unlocked.
Scottish driver. That certainly allows Mike Redford around the outside in the chute. Redford up into P20, Malcolm down into 21st, although, again, not for category position. That's just for overall standings there. So no real points gained for Redford, although he can now set his sights on Billy Octane ahead. And, of course, he's got to catch Byron alongside to even stand a chance of gaining some position. But back to the pit stop requirement, of course, a fixed 25-second refueling window, and tyres then only costing an additional 5 seconds. And with the temperatures here tonight, the nature of the circuit, I can't imagine too many people will be taking tyres, and it did prove to be a very good choice at Kyalami just last week. Although this week, I don't think it will be the right call, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Nordquist, Shipston down the lane, along with Hutchins and Stevenson to be the early pitters. And Redford tries to wrestle that slippery Ginetta all the way down to the inside to get it under the pit entry line. Meanwhile, we've got Earnhardt Senior once again defending from Snooty McFlude with the bump draft
the Grim
down
Ridge
into the outer loop. All the inside curve there for Grim, and it's a very hard section to make a pass, Jesse. We've seen it in the GT3 cars. You've got to be super aggressive and have a majority of overlap before you can even think of trying to can open the door on the inside, because of the switchback nature. You of course do become on the outside, which then becomes the inside once again 2 corners later. So you've almost got to put the car alongside and just have full faith the guy on the outside is going to back out. Otherwise, it gets very, very messy if you meet 2 arrogant drivers go side by side through that loop.
Well, yeah, racing is a lot about trust, and that's the interesting thing about it. Unlike most other sports, is you're out there racing for yourself, you're racing for your team, but you've got to put a lot of trust in everybody else's team. It's a weird cooperative sport, because not only are you cooperating with your team, you're having to cooperate with other teams. You've got to know when a move is not on, whenever it's the only realistic outcome is going to be a negative one, and that comes with repetition. That comes with being in situations where it's gone wrong. Obviously, nobody has ever had a racing career where it's not gone wrong for them, where they made the bad decision at some point. Speaking of that, off into the grass, trying to make the best turn here in the final, but it hasn't worked out. Snooty McFlude, I wonder if that was on purpose. They decided to come down pit lane prior to that, but they saw the slip from Grim Lilith and immediately ducked down the pit lane. What a recovery from Grim, though. That's so easy to get that car sideways or get it into the wall. They were able to get it woed up. and saved it. But I think the real winner there was McFlude, who saw that and immediately came into pit lane. If that was a knee-jerk reaction, that was excellent. If it wasn't of that variety, then that was just excellent hap in circumstance. Couple of incidents from the stewards coming in. All of these lap 1, drive-through penalty for car 33 for taking out the 144. The 199 saves the car without hitting anything as an additional remark. 5-second penalty for car 4 for forcing car 46 off the track in the bus stop on lap 1. Racing incident between the 197 and the 98. Racing incident between the 888 and the 33. We're on lap 2 now. 5-second penalty for car 888. Avoidable contact resulting in position loss. That in turn 6. Racing incident between the 731 and the 197. A warning on lap 3 for car 225. Clipping the grass, hitting car 139. Deemed avoidable. Position was returned. So that was likely a 5-second penalty, John. That was given a lesser penalty of a warning because of that. You love to see that heads-up driving. Racing incident on lap 4 between cars 30, number 4, and 46. Deemed a unfortunate racing incident.
Yeah, just want to touch as well quickly. We said about the undoing, didn't we, of drivers' races, and Billy Octane certainly done that. Netted a drive-through from the stewards. He's then come down and served the drive-through and picked up a stop-go 30. That's on top of serving his mandatory pit stop as well. So expect Billy to be tumbling down the order if he does continue with this one. Nico Kumpu, the first of the lead pack to blink and bring himself down the lane. Probably a very sensible move. If you look towards where Andy Boardman is, just coming down the top of the circuit map, the number 69 with the triangle, he's about to hit some back markers, Jesse, and that could be a very smart call from Nico Kumpu, of course, pulling himself out of the fight with Boardman. He knows Boardman's going to hit traffic. He probably would have thought that Nico would have eventually got to the traffic as well, and he's just pulled himself down the lane, out of the way of everything, to try and come out in some clear air. Of course, the number 256 still down pit lane at the moment, hasn't moved off his stand, so he may find some clean air in the form just behind of the 888 and the 46 by the time they get going, and hopefully doesn't get tripped up all too much. Jordan Daly, meanwhile, up into P8. He's having a fantastic race so far. Kept it very clean throughout the beginning. Had a hard lick coming out of the last corner into the safer barrier, but looked relatively unharmed and unfazed by that one. And the next couple of cars ahead of him are Kingston Lee, and I think that could be Raphael Huell involved in that one, just ahead. Number 27 on the Looney rank, so way out of contention. There's going to be some blue flags being shown, and I'm sure Raphael Huell, being the heads-up driver he is, will clear out of the way of Daly and allow him to progress with his race. But the number 256, Nico Kumpu, has come out in a sandwich of traffic. He's got Burnett and Kerrigan ahead of him, and that's going to hamper him on his next few laps as well. Just over 13 minutes of pit window still left to go. Half the field pitted, half the field still yet to pit, and I think a lot of drivers are going to be leaving this one till the last minute, Jesse.
Yeah, that's a common approach that a lot of the teams take here in a race like this, especially one that's close, is you want somebody to flinch first. You want to see what they're doing, and usually what happens is nobody flinches, and you all just come in at the last second anyway, so no harm, no foul, nothing lost, nothing gained. But speaking of something gained, Ash Bibby with another 5 gifted memberships to the channel. It's absolutely incredible. Ash wants an ooh-woo. Miguel Martins doesn't. Miguel, plug your ears. Plug your ears. Ooh-woo! That is a dangerous precedent we've just set on this stream, that I will ooh-woo for gifted memberships, and I don't know how I feel about that. But Bubbins, CFP Racing, Nature's Nicholas Nordquist, and Rolfie Ulfie, if you're in the chat, thank Ash Bibby for the gifted membership to the RCI YouTube channel. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ash, for your continued support of the channel. If you do have emotes now, feel free to use them in chat. I might be, hint hint, working on some new ones, some good ones that you can use to help voice your opinion in chat for 2024.
We certainly need a Jesse Lee Uwu emote, I'm guessing.
Do we?
That's got to be on the list, Jesse. Come on, Jesse. You know it's got to happen.
Oh my goodness. I'm not very kawaii, as it turns out. I only watch the one anime. But anyway, thank you all for your gifted subs. Just being in chat is enough for us. A like and a subscribe every now and then is all we could ever really ask. But to donate directly to RCI, all of that goes back into our servers, and it's been such a fantastic, a humbling fall for us. We're getting a lot of the bills paid so we can continue to put on races, not just in ACC, but elsewhere as well. So just thank you, everybody. Obviously, nobody here, John, me, Ash, we're not making anything by being here. We're here for the love of the community. We're here because we love racing. But everything that gets donated goes back into our servers. And yeah, it's looking like a really good, and I can't talk too much about this, but looking like a really good 2024.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a bit privy to those plans as well. And certainly big things are coming here at RCI. And a few more drivers down the lane, to name a few. Andy Boardman, Christian Lindgren, Rudy Philmolter and Jones will peel themselves off the circuit and down the lane to clear their mandatory stop. That, of course, promotes the Sim brothers up to 1 and 2. They've got a gaggle of cars ahead, so I can only imagine they're probably going to take this time to come down the pit lane as well. And if you are curious of what we've got going on at RCI at the moment, of course, we've got a much busier calendar at the moment on the run-up to Christmas. Of course, Wednesday sees our team championship head to Imola for their GT4 efforts. Porcelain Racing are leading Triple R from the 699 Racing in Pro, and Ground Zero Racing from Really Slow Racing, and RPMS Simsport are your silver top 3. As we see a move here, Aaron Jackson, I think, going up the inside of Malcolm. That's for P19 overall. And again, this isn't going to be for point scoring honours. Malcolm, of course, in the silver class, mixing it in with the pro. So use the term silver very lightly sometimes when it comes to describing these guys. Thursday, of course, Jesse alluded to earlier, it's not just ACC we do here. iRacing Road Season 2 heading to Charlotte Motor Speedway, I believe home territory for you, Jesse Lee, for their round 3. Bart Matcher took GT4 honours, and Mikael Sundstrom on MX5 honours in round 2. And Saturday Night Owl again is back on the regular. Round 3 takes them to the Nürburgring. Timothy Flamger leading Jordan Daly and Harry Conway after round 2 as well. And of course, if you do want to get involved in races here at RCI, head on over to the website racerci.com or Discord, where you can find some EA Sports WRC championships beginning to form in the server. Select the relevant role in the channel when you enter, and it will of course open up all the boards to yourself. And if you do want to get involved in staffing at RCI as well, much like Ash Bibby has done in the recent times, of course, moving from a part-time watcher to nearly a full-time broadcaster, should we say, here with us, you can of course do so in our Discord. If you head on over to the link, find the staff vacancies board, have a little read through, see what suits you best. Of course, stewarding, broadcasting, commentating, anything you kind of want to do in the scene, I'm sure we do have a seat for you. And of course, full training will be provided. We won't just throw you in at the deep end, and we'll provide you all the support and mentoring you need to become either a broadcaster, a steward, or a commentator. So get on over and get involved in that one as well. You can of course find links to all of our social media down below, where we're a little bit lacking on the posting, Jesse Lee, but again, we're setting to change that in the future. Trying to be more active, give you more esports updates from our teams behind the scenes, including our very own in-house RCI esports team. Leaders at the front of the field, Andy Boardman and Nico Kumpu, still hasn't changed hands, although Nico has made up some time on Boardman. That gap has shrunk down. Meanwhile, Valerius Lindgren and Menes Rodriguez just behind, and Joe Dorber has picked up a stop-go 30, Jesse. I can only assume that's for speeding in the pit lane.
Sure is. Picking up where we left off, working lap 4 incidents. There was a racing incident between cars 225 and the 1. The stewards deemed that it was wreck avoidance checkup, resulting in contact between those two cars in turn number 3. A stop and go 10 was issued for car 225 on lap 4 in the bus stop. The 225 making it 3 wide, causing a multi-car takeout on lap 4 in the bus stop. So a rare stop and go 10 issued for a car there. No further action on lap 4 between cars 95 and the 225 as visibility led into the incident. Racing incident between the 46 and the 98 on turn 4, still in the bus stop. Again, wreck avoidance contact there. racing incident minor contact in turn 7, lap 4 between cars 96 and 6, and a racing incident on lap 4, turn 8 between the 777 and the 19. I remember a couple of those incidents, John, and those were the side-by-side, the little rubbing his racing things, the stewards doing what they normally do. If it's not egregious, they just sort of let that kind of little ticky-tack stuff go. It's not the biggest deal, and it's not worth ruining both of the races if it's just a little bit of contact. Now, if one of the cars loses out, or loses positions, or they're removed off the racetrack, or it's something egregious, obviously stewards will step in and give a penalty that they feel is deserving of that incident. But a couple of those racing incidents we saw the replay of, and they were little tiny shoves, if you will, and wasn't a really big deal, and they've let that go. I love that in racing. I don't like a super nanny style of FIA stewarding. I love it when they say, look, as long as you are giving each other a little bit of space, we're going to overlook the little contacts.
Yeah, that's the main thing, isn't it? You know, keeping racing alive. The last thing we want to see is, you know, harsh penalties being dealt out for the smallest of contacts. And, you know, Ginetta's and GT racing, they do kind of go hand in hand with a little bit of rubbing here and there, a little bit of, you know, close racing, should we say, trading paint, trading liveries, however you want to kind of christen it in that sense. And, you know, it's fantastic to see stewards being very fair, very level-headed, as Daly looks to try and dive up the inside of Grim Lilith there, and Grim Lilith just slamming the door in Daly's face into turn 7, of course, toe, and you can almost not see Daly's car coming over the boot down into the heel of turn 8. Looks to the inside, although not close enough to make a lunge, and Grim, the last of the late breakers, just about manages to
I would like to point out these
Daly.
are friends off the racetrack.
They are indeed, and we have seen some friendship being ended maybe on the racetrack in the past, but certainly keeping it very fair at the minute. But Daly's going to want to get a move on. He's going to want to get past Lilith to try and set his sights on Nordqvist. And of course, see if he can catch any more of the Sim Brothers entries up the field. As per usual, Matthew Kingston-Lee, last of the late pitters, he is still out on the circuit. Just over 4 minutes to go, roughly 2 laps before he's got to come down the lane. And provisionally, Matthew Kingston-Lee, your race leader.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of us has to say that, right? The best last name in sim racing. I'm not biased, don't at me, but leading the race for the time being. This is a common thing. John's absolutely correct. Matthew will go long in the races, and that's just his strategy. He plays his strategy out a lot like this, doing pretty well in this race as well. Be curious to see how far back he goes, because the pack's still somewhat together, but right now leading the race, less than a second between Boardman and Kumpu. It's been about that the entire race so far, and behind them just a little bit, Grim still holding off Jordan Daly for what may end up being P7 on the field right now. Grim absolutely giving it everything in that Earnhardt-inspired livery, and Jordan Daly just trying to figure out a way to get by him, trying to be where he's not. He's offsetting, obviously. Grim's going more to the middle of the racetrack. Daly's telegraphing where he's going to be. There's a little bit of this and that. These two race together quite often. They know each other, and the fact that Grim did not just lay over for Daly lets me believe Grim has also telegraphed to Daly, look, this is a spot in the top 10. I'm racing for points. This is, you know, sort of important. As one car off in the background completely misses the track. Was that Snooty McFlude, I wonder?
It did look like a terrifying face go sailing past. And just having a look at the circuit map, it is indeed the number 1, Snooty McFlude, just completely missing their braking point, I think, by the time they came down the hill here. Just going to completely, you know, miss the apex, miss the corner, and use all of the extra runoff as they slam on the brakes. Of course, yeah, way too late there. Didn't brake until nearly the 50-meter board, I think, by that point. It's very easy to kind of daze yourself out with Watkins Glen and kind of blink and
so
think,
weird.
oh, I've missed my braking point. I've done that on that corner numerous times before. Even in endurance racing, it's detrimental. When Daly is past Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Did he go around the outside of him?
Not sure. That's a brave move on the Intimidator, but side by side up through the S's. Let's have a race replay quickly before we do. They came across the line side by side, so you can only imagine Daly got a much better run out of turn 11. Managed to set the car up the inside into turn 1, and Grim up the curb on the inside. It does kind of raise up and bank almost
Daly
like a
gave
ski
him
hump
room into one there a
on
little
the
bit,
inside.
didn't he?
Yeah. plenty of room there on the inside and plenty of room through the S's. And Daly's off at the bus stop, and that's going to allow Earnhardt Sr. around the outside into the bank right-hander. Not sure what happened there. We're going to have to get a race replay. A very slow flash of the headlights from Daly. I'm wondering if he got a little bump and run from the Intimidator as they went in side by side. It was Grim forcing the car up the inside. I said it earlier, Jesse, you've really got to put the car there and just stick it there to try and make the move work. And I think that's exactly what the Intimidator did there.
Well, we've got the Intimidator and Jordan Daly playing the part of the old Duke boys, taking flight there in the old General. Just going through the infield grass. Look at this. It was a move. He had half a look up the inside, realized it wasn't on, went back in line, got as close to the back of Grimm's car as he possibly could. Look at Jordan Daly for Race Ventura, just digging off the corner, trying to get every ounce of grip and pace to stay as close to the back of Grimm. This was where the move happened one lap ago that put Daly out in front. Will Grimm rectify the mistake? I suspect Grimm went a little bit wide into this turn. We've seen him sideways before. He almost catches the grass there, but it's near perfect. A little bit wide there on the exit. Daly's able to undercut him, but it doesn't matter. The longer run off the corner is exactly the pace down the pit straight that Grimm needs to survive. Yet again, what an excellent battle between these two. Keep in mind, there's no bad blood here. Daly gave Grimm room in the S's the last time through. These are friends racing each other. They're showing each other respect, but they're also going at it really hard here in the late going.
Yeah, Daly using maybe one of the track cut penalties there on turn one to maximize the run through the S's down into the bus stop. He goes, he looks to the inside to try and place the car, but just not close enough to make it happen.
Oh,
He's very close to the Armco on the inside. I thought he nearly touched that as I looked away to my second screen, and Daly's looking fired up. He's looking very racy. He's chomping at the back of the Intimidator's car. He wants to get a move on. He wants to get past Grimm. Could this be the move now? Down into the chute, a snout ahead, but just not late enough on the brakes. Grimm doing just enough to keep that number 115 ahead, and I think this battle is going to go all the way to the checker.
It sure does. Bubbins may have just signed up for the Night Owl Championship. That's absolutely insane, Bubbins. If that's what you've signed up for and you're looking for the pre-queue server, I think the event managers take the pre-queue servers down when a race is on for server stability is what's going on there. If that's not the case, then I unfortunately don't have an answer for you, but I'm sure you can find it on the Discord. Right now, though, what an epic race here. 18 some minutes to go. We started in sort of the sunset, if you will. We're now entering the twilight period of the evening. The sun has set. The lights on the cars are becoming very much required to navigate this circuit. Still nothing in it between the first and second place cars. Nico Kumpu holds the fastest lap. They're within 3/4 of a second of each other. Meanwhile, Lindgren has used the pit cycle and has used their advantage to get back out in front of Menez Rodriguez. Menez Rodriguez still hounding the back of Lindgren. Menez has to do this a second time.
Yeah, absolutely so. And we're not going to see any team orders, are we, as we saw last time between these two. Looks like it's going to be the long way for Menez Rodriguez, but he's got the legs in that Ginetta. He just seems to dial all of the aero out of the car. Lindgren to the inside, manages to mount a defense, but Les Stevenson ahead could be the spanner in the works for these guys. Of course, Les, not a slow driver by any means, although running slightly out of contention after the earlier on incident. So this could be what does it between these two Sim Brothers entries. And they are streaming over on YouTube. I think Victor Nordquist streaming his point of view from the car. So go and show him some love from us here at RCI. That's Sim Brothers Racing, as you see at the bottom right-hand side of your screen at the moment. Go and drop them a sub, a like, and all that good stuff, and show them that we love them being a part of the RCI community and the RCI broadcast as well. But this battle, nothing to be had through the middle and the final sector. It looks like Menez Rodriguez certainly has the faster car through the, the straightaways, Jesse. Turn one all the way down through the back straight, of course, all the way up to the inner loop or the bus stop chicane. It looks like Menez Rodriguez certainly faster through there, but once you get down to the twisty stuff, Christian Lindgren looks to have the better car. Les Stevenson saying, I want no part of this. On you go, boys. Duke it out amongst you. I'm going to take a back seat here, and I'm just going to be a camera car for this fight.
Yeah, Les is quite smart. Doesn't want to get involved in a battle that doesn't belong to him. We've all been there right on the racetrack, John. You've been days where you're one of the lead cars and you're just hoping that everybody respects blue flags, and some days you are the blue flagged car. So it goes both ways, yin and yang style. And on days where it's not your day, you just got to do the smart thing, and that's just not get involved. And Les, absolutely a veteran in every form in racing, and just knows that today wasn't his day. Who knows? Maybe next time it'll be fortune's reverse. Jordan Daly, by the way, has just been given a drive-through penalty, and I haven't received anything from the stewards, and I wonder if maybe that is track limits. You documented earlier, Daly maybe using track limits to his advantage, but has he gone over the limit one too many times? We'll update you if anything comes in from the stewards, but right now we're sort of forced to believe this is track limits for that drive-through.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, he went very wide at turn 1 when we were watching the Grim Lilith fight, and I'm pretty sure then Christian Lindgren got the bump from Menez Rodriguez through the bus stop chicane, because they got certainly very close indeed. And Tom Shipston currently on the circuit, the number 60. Ted Edwards behind him in the Race Ventura number 8, looking to try and capitalize overall position, should we say. He's managed to fend off Jones in position 14, which is essentially second place in the silver standings. The number 6 car just behind there, the purple fronted machine. Meanwhile, Joe Dorber on a bit of a comeback drive after his earlier on penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He's got up to Mike Redford in the number 95 through the bus stop. Big slide for Dorber, and Redford's all over the curbs. Dorber sliding out of the second part of the chicane, manages to tuck in behind for the outer loop of turn 5. But Dorber looking very racy for rebound racing. Redford has to go defensive into the chute of turn 6. Dorber goes much wider, tries the old cutback switcheroo, but catches the grass and fires himself all the way over the exit curb. Now he's not going to be close enough into the toe, and this fight will resume. But Dorber looking like he's almost out braking himself, Jesse, into some of these corners. Maybe trying to do the old up and under, get the late drive off the corner, try to get the better exit to set himself up for the next one. He's certainly getting closer to Redford, isn't he? He's looming. Redford goes defensive. Dorber breaks a little bit early. Redford looks like he's broken too late, although Dorber's broke too much and has scrubbed off too much speed for that corner.
John, you are starting to sound...
capitalize on this one.
Do you realize if you watch this back on repeat, you just started to sound like a Dr. Seuss book there for a second? That was incredible. You almost sounded like a 1998 rap lyric. That was quite impressive indeed. You didn't even realize you were doing it, but I've been trying to figure out why every time we show Mike Redford's car, it looks very shiny. It's the paint that he's elected to take on the, I believe that's the Mike Racing car. And it looks very nice, even in this low light. But I was confused. Oh, you're going to be really confused here. Think about Rosca making contact there with the 06 of Jones. That was P2 in the silver class. It was only 2 seconds between Edwards and Jones for the lead in silver. And it's all come undone here. Jones was up the inside. That made contact with Roscom. They both go sliding off of the racetrack.
That's right in front of P3 for silver as well. I think that was Walerius coming through the shot while they were spinning off to the left-hand side. But, of course, Jones is going to be the bigger loser here, because second place in silver, that's going to hemorrhage some time to Kerrigan. But luckily, Jones has held on to second in silver, but Roscam has lost a place to Byron. Oh, no, the timing is updated. And yeah, Jones is down to P3, so Kerrigan has taken advantage of that one. And meanwhile, Sanu McFleud on to the back of Grim Lilith, of course. Jordan Daly earlier on chomping at the bit with the Intimidator, had no luck, and I wonder if Snooty can have any luck on this one. But the greatest last name in sim racing, Jesse Lee, just behind Matthew Kingston Lee. He was provisionally leading before the pit window, finds himself inside the top 10 now.
Been a good performance from Kingston Lee, and he's had a series of those in the past, looking like another top 10 day for them. Could it possibly be more? Additional thing in from stewarding, they were just telling us, the race controller, McKenna McConnell, telling me that they're just about caught up. They're dealing with the incident you just saw right now, but other than that, they have got everything done tonight. A warning for a lap 4 turn 9 incident between cars 777 and 19. Multiple contacts, neither driver at fault. There was a warning for the 777 though for continuing to accelerate while already spinning the car ahead. So sort of driving into them after a spin, if you will. Racing incident for minor contact on lap 5 between the 8 and the 6. Racing incident minor contact between the 115 and the 19 on lap 17 in the bus stop. And a racing incident between car 48 and the 464 on lap 23 in the bus stop. And as we just said, they are working the incident we just watched.
Yeah, stewards all caught up there, and kudos to them for the chaos that has ensued tonight. Again, Ginetta's always seems to bring out the worst in some of these incidences, but kudos to them for prevailing through and just pushing through to get to the end. So you're all clear for when the checkered flag drops. Meanwhile, of course, Grim is now in a three-way fight with Studi McFlood and Matthew Kingston Lee, so the Intimidator is going to have to do some work now for the next 11 minutes. He already fended off Daly. Can he fend off Snooty and Matthew as well? And you see the little gap there, Jesse. Of course, one mistake. We see it, don't we, a lot in these one-make championships. One mistake is all they need to capitalise those 0.3, 0.4 of a second. Because when you're all in the same car, the smallest of mistakes can be the largest. And meanwhile, at the helm of the field, Andy Boardman is still under pressure from Nico Kumpu. It's not separated, this gap, has it? It's been a very consistent gap, as you say, Jesse, all race on this one. And again, this is going to come down to the smallest of mistakes if one is made between these two. But Andy Boardman looking very strong in the Ginetta platform. And stand me if I'm corrected, but I believe top pre-qualifier for this series as well.
Sure was. You got a memory on you, I'll tell you that. Nico Kumpu trying to convert this. The patience, is it a virtue? We're going to find out in another 9 minutes, 50 seconds or so. Kumpu's been just about this close the entire time. No more than 1 second back. The quickest car on the track, you could argue, has the quickest lap of the race right now. And you wonder, with those bonus points in hand, Boardman has some for pole position, Kumpu has some for quickest lap. How hard do you fight this? How much do you want this win? How much pride is involved? I'll tell you this, whomever wins this race absolutely deserves it, and quite frankly, they both deserve it. They ran 2 immaculate races. Their pit stops were immaculate. Their working of traffic has been immaculate to this point. It's all been brilliant by those two, so super kudos. Whoever wins deserves it. I just hope they can settle it as cleanly as they've raced so far. Britton Jones for Verma in the number 6 trying to recover. Remember, they were involved in the earlier incident. In fact, actually racing the car they were in the incident with, getting by them here. Unfortunately now, though, it is for well down the order from where they were originally running. What did that incident do? Well, it released Ted Edwards, who took the lead quite early on into the race in the silver class and had hung on to a very tangible lead. It was only 2 seconds at the time of the incident, but now has a massive lead between him and Callum Kerrigan, who has spent the majority of this race running 4th and 3rd. They're now up to P2. That is huge for Kerrigan's championship hopes.
Yeah, we said earlier, didn't we, with the, of course, the lack of silver drivers tonight. Anybody that finishes high up is going to net a good haul of points for their championship earnings towards the end of the season, of course. In this one, Ted Edwards at the moment, your silver race leader. Callum Kerrigan in 2nd and Jones in 3rd. I'm wondering if he can get that spot back from Kerrigan, the number 28. Time will tell. 8 minutes on the clock. There's not a lot of time to get on board with it. But just going back to your point again of Nico Kumpu and Andy Boardman, you know, it's a good haul of championship points for both drivers as we see Roscam go side by side with Jones again up through the S's. This is where it all kind of ended in disaster last time through the bus stop, but Jones is now behind Roscam, so they've cleared each other before we get to the pinch point, and that fight has died off in the water, I would say. Of course, Pro and Silver fighting amongst each other. No championship points to be earned between these two, so it's probably sensible to let that one die off and just let both of you have your own race now. But going back to Nico Kumpu and Andy Boardman, of course, Boardman leading championship standings with 119 points. Nico Kumpu down in 5th with 76 points to his name. He's got Walerius and Roberts and Dorber ahead of him. And if you look down the board on the left-hand side, Walerius, of course, on the next step of the podium. Roberts, we know, is out from the earlier on incident. We know Dorber has had a rotten penalty-ridden race as well, all the way down in 20th, as you see here, battling still with Mike Redford in the number 95. And that's going to be a good haul of points for Nico Kumpu, even if he just keeps line of stern with Andy Boardman, waits for the mistake to happen. If it happens, so be it. Good haul of points. If it doesn't, you still walk away with second and a good chunk of points, including the fastest lap to your name at the moment.
Started with 30 cars in this race today. 27 of them, despite the carnage, have survived. Raphael Huel, the last running car, has a drive-through penalty, and that does look to me like that is a drive-through for track limits. No reason to believe it's anything but that. Meanwhile, these two continuing to go at it. Now Grimm fighting off Snooty McFlew. Daly was right behind Grimm earlier. Remember the drive-through penalty, though? Bryn Jones, by the way, has just been given a drive-through penalty, and I suspect that isn't for track limits. In fact, it is an incident on lap 24 in the bus stop. Drive-through penalty for car 6 for taking out car 96. Out of everything we've seen today, partner, I feel like that's the one that makes the most sense. I feel like we could see that one coming.
Yeah, we could indeed, couldn't we? Two cars side by side through the bus stop. Always going to be awkward and a tricky one to call for the stewards as well. I certainly wouldn't like to be in their shoes across the way at the moment, but a fair decision nonetheless, I would say there. Jones possibly going to lose out on the third position in silver. Time will tell. We're going to have to keep an eye on when he comes down pit lane.
Look at Kingston Lee involved in that. We cut away from that. That Kingston Lee's in that picture. That is a lot of them coming here to get 3, maybe 4 laps left to go. Sorry for interrupting. I'm just excited.
I was going to say Kingston Lee probably playing the smart game, sitting at the back, waiting for Grimm and Snooty to kind of come together, and then he's just going to sail on through and say thank you very much for those 2 positions. Enjoy your fight from now on, I guess. Joe Dorber still in the mix of it with Redford. Tim Ireland in the background, getting lapped or passed, I believe, by Raphael Huel. He's, of course, got the drive-through penalty to his name, so nothing kind of won or lost between Tim and Raphael there, because he'll be coming down the pit lane very shortly as well. Joe Dorber, of course, looked good in the championship standings. Again, second position at the moment, 96 points to his name, although finishing all the way down in essentially P17 in Pro. Isn't going to net him too many points here at Watkins Glen. It's certainly going to be a round to forget for Joe Dorber, but Mike Redford ahead. Probably going to be very pleased with this attack and defense he's being put up at the moment. And Nico Kumpu still sniffing at the back of Boardman, but he's run wide on the grass. That's going to lose a lot of momentum. It was within half a second, Jesse, and I feel that gap's nearly doubled now because of that mistake.
Yeah, it certainly has doubled, but you know what? What an excellent recovery to stay somewhat close. I was just getting ready to say, I expected to see Boardman drive away into the, well, I was going to say sunset, but that's already come and gone, into the darkness, but no, he didn't. Able to recover quite quickly was Rebound Racing's Nico Kumpu, and still an opportunity afforded to them. 3.5 minutes, 2 laps probably to go. This time by, they're getting ready to take the stripe. If he has a really mega lap this time through, he might have one shot at Andy Boardman, but Boardman just refusing to make mistakes here today. The first crack in the armor from Kumpu. Luckily, it wasn't a fatal blow, and he might still have life here with 2 laps to go in this race.
Yeah, Boardman's probably breathing a sigh of relief at the moment. Of course, the gap was 0.4 of a second. It's now 0.878 coming across the line, so it has doubled and some as they have come to the line. Of course, 2 more laps on the clock, and no traffic ahead of them. If you look, the next car on the circuit is the 199. This is going through the outer loop at the moment, so going to be no impact at all. Look how much Kumpu uses the curbs through the bus stop versus Andy Boardman. He's looking very cautious through his curb usage and dabbing the brakes through the bank corner, just trying to transfer some of the weight forward onto the nose of the Ginetta, just to get it pitched through the banking that little bit harder, and trailing the brake all the way through turn 6 of shoot as well. And it certainly looks like Nico Kumpu has the pace in this one, Jesse. The gap looks a little bit smaller than it once was at the beginning of the lap, and we're going to come up to a timing gate on the exit of this corner, and a big slide again from Kumpu. You can tell by the onboard, you don't even have to see the hands how much he's pushing at the moment, and that gap has come down by 0.2 of a second. So Kumpu is certainly the faster car, although under 2 minutes to go. This time by will be the last lap, so can he do it? 1 and a bit laps to go, Jesse Lee. Who's your money on for this one?
Well, Andy Boardman went wide right there, but I think it was only to set himself up down the short chute there to the penultimate corner. Joe Dauber had a little bit of contact, a little bit of go, coming down into the chute. And other than that, no real harm or foul. Still contesting that 19th place position. Dauber able to take that spot now over Mike Redford. So positions reversed here. Redford still on the back, or excuse me, Dauber now on the back of Redford again as they continue to fight. Dauber had the position. He lost the position back to Redford. Now they're going to be side by side. Redford's going to shoot the gap into the carousel. Dauber is going to go the long way into the carousel and finally take that contested position. That contest that started half a lap ago finally settled through the bus stop and into the carousel. Mike Redford given a 5-second time penalty, and I can only imagine that is for something that happened. Indeed, a 5-second time penalty to Mike Redford for avoidable contact, punting the 777 of Dauber in turn 4.
Yeah, we're lap 30 now at the moment, of course, so it wasn't too long ago that one happened, but Joe Dauber persistent, paying off there, ran very short into the bus stop and mounted the defence, and it of course compromised Redford through the latter half as we see Kingston Lee there getting past Snooty McFlood, and he's going to have to go defensive now into the bus stop chicane as well. Kingston Lee to the inside, Snooty on the outside, keeping it very clean. Both drivers there. Almost looks like Snooty's car's got a couple of spotlights on the wing mirrors when the floodlights hit it in the right angle through the bus stop, but it is just chrome paint on that one as well. So fantastic to see the custom livery efforts of everybody involved in the field today. And Boardman and Kumpu, time is running out. The corners are running out now as well as we head through turn 9, of course, back onto the NASCAR layout, should we say, where of course they come straight through the bollards in the background, cutting out the inner loop. Up the inside curb goes Kumpu in turn 10, trying to maximize absolutely everything. Wants to stick it to the back of Boardman as they get towards the line, just in case there's a late mistake, but there isn't. And Andy Boardman will hang on to be your round 3 winner here at Watkins Glen. A slow flash of the lights from both drivers. Nico Kumpu coming across the line in second, and next across the line is this man here, Bjorn.
What a boring race for Bjorn.
Had a very quiet race. I was about to say that, certainly stuck in the John Dalton zone. Nobody ahead, nobody behind on that one, and Menez Rodriguez coming behind in 4th place, Christian Lindgren in 5th, and Victor Nordquist in 6th. Has to create a quad Sim Brothers finish there from 3rd all the way down to 4th. Grim Lilith next across the line, followed by Matthew Kingston Lee and Snooty McFlood, and again a flash of the lights there from those guys. Rudy Philmalter will take your last step of the top 10. Tom Shipston for Ground Zero Racing will come across the line in P11. He was a British Masters silver champion in RCI, and Ted Edwards just behind, taking the silver honours for that one. Byron followed by Daly, and a premature celebration there from Billy Octane. Didn't even make the line before he stoved it into the pit wall, Jesse. He's having to do a 3-point turn in the middle of the road, so heads up if anybody's listening to the broadcast. Watch out for a stricken Billy Octane in the grass. Roscam comes across the line in 16th. He's still trying to get the 3-point turn underway, and he's got the car facing the right way. Billy Octane will finish P24 plus 30 seconds to his name. Mike Redford promoted to pro, what was looking like a good race, but a late 5-second penalty has put him in P19 overall, and I think the 5 seconds will be just enough to stop him from losing any further places. Billy Octane's got the wiper on. He's cutting the grass here at turn 1. He's going the whole hog for his celebration, as Raphael Huell will be one of your final few cars to come around and take the checkered flag. The 199 of Malcolm next across under our comms booth for P21. Raphael Huell for the Flying Hellfish Terrifying Face car will be the last car to cross the line. And there's your results on screen. Jesse Lee, it was close at the top. It was spaced out throughout the field, but we still had some great fights for some honourable positions, including the latter half, should we say, of the top 10 between the Intimidator, Kingston Lee and Snooty McFlood. What a fantastic fight that was. And seeing Dauber and Redford going at each other again. It was for P18, but they fought like it was for the top step of the podium.
That's the miracle that is Watkins Glen. It's an old world circuit that has a lot of character, and it is brilliant to say the least. It puts on some excellent racing. Congratulations to Boardman and Kumpu running one of the cleanest, most interesting tight races I've seen in many, many years. That is just incredible stuff. And the silver class won by Ted Edwards. It looked rather academic on paper, but I suspect it was a bit more than that. In the cockpit of the car, held a tangible small lead over Jones for the majority. So let's talk to our winner in silver, Ted Edwards. You're in the box with me on Saturday, but today I get to interview you. You just won the silver class.
I did, and I didn't think I was in the lead, to be honest, but it was fun.
Tell us about your race. Obviously, you didn't qualify pole, but you were able to take that position and hold it throughout the race. You were able to dodge the incidents that were in between you. How much of the chaos did you see, and how did you survive?
Uh, Pure luck. I don't know. The chaos in the chicane was weird. I think it was Phil who was sideways, and then I was like, well, I got to try and pick a lane. So I stuck to the middle, like the one to the racing line where you take the curbs, and I got through without any incident. Next minute, Daly was on my right. Luckily, he shouted at me saying he was there, but it was pretty sketchy to say the least. I'm not sure what happened. I really want to see it back, but it was fun. Needless to say.
Well, you're in a championship position now where you're fighting for it for the final two races. What's the expectation? You going to go and win the silver championship here on Monday?
I'm gonna try. That's the plan now. Apparently 2 third places and a win is something I didn't expect, but yeah, I'm definitely gonna try and go for it.
Well, you're going to have some stiff competition. What's your outlook for the final two tracks in the championship? Keep in mind, we're going to Zandvoort and the Nürburgring.
Zandvoort is pretty fun, from what I remember. I don't know about these cars, but I quite enjoy the track. And Nerbs is, well, everyone knows what the Nerbs is and how it is, so it shouldn't be too bad. I'm just hoping that Jones slows down a bit because he was pretty quick in that race today until he had his incident, bless him. But Kerrigan was quick as well, so I just got to see how it goes and see what happens on race day.
Ted, finally, I've always wanted to ask you this. Ted, is there anybody you want to say hello to, thank out there? Maybe your lovely girlfriend?
Yeah, I want to say thank you to Katrina. She supports me in her own little way, and thank her for the delivery she's made for me and Daly. She didn't have to, and it just brings a little bit of spice to the viewers at home that watch these races rather than seeing sort of just a one colour car. But I'd like to say thank you for Daly, for one, not hitting me, and two, for just helping me in the race, really, with all races. And obviously thank you to the stewards, obviously with that incident today. That would have been a post race thing, and I think having stewards here is a big plus for us.
Shout out your team as well.
Oh yeah, Race Ventura. We try and race everywhere, but
Yeah, you do. Another win in the trophy cabinet for Race Ventura. Ted Edwards, congratulations on another win, another trophy here at RCI.
thank you very much.
My commentary partner there, John Dalton, but he can do more than talk for a living. He can drive pretty fast too. He got it done here today.
Yeah, fantastic race from Ted Edwards there, of course, fending off, as he said. Jones was looking very racy in the early half before his incident, of course, set him back down the grid. Very unfortunate there. But, Ted's got a tough challenge on his hands if he does want to take the championship come the final round at the Nürburgring. As Ted said, it's a bit of a mystery as to how the cars run through Zandvoort and through the Nürburgring. I can only imagine Zandvoort, Jesse, is going to be super fun next week. Again, it's a typically old school circuit, lots of grass, lots of gravel. It's, you dip a wheel off and you're going to lose a bit of momentum. You're going to have the train kind of running up on you. It's almost like the scenes we see at Alton Park where the train starts forming, it builds, and then the helm of it makes a mistake and everybody sails past and you shuffle back down the order. So looking forward to heading to Holland next week to witness the chaos that will be at Zandvoort.
We got an answer on what happened to Joe Dauber on pit lane. We talked about the penalty that set them back. They hit the wrong side of the wheel, perhaps. You have a flasher button and a pit limiter button. They hit the flashers on the pit lane instead of the pit limiter. Big F indeed for Joe's race, but luckily it was only a blip. I'm sure Joe will be back next week and be where he belongs, near the front of the field. What a crazy race it was for a lot of people. Some damage, a lot to debrief on, of course, and a lot to get to. You talk about Zandvoort. Keep in mind, it's not the modern F1 Zandvoort. It's old Zandvoort as well, which only adds to the danger, I suppose, the very, very tight confines. Well, if you're looking for a place to race, I think RCI can be that place for you. All you need to do is go to racerci.com, look at the events on offer, both WRC, of course, iRacing, and ACC currently. Maybe more to come next year. We shall see. But for right now, those are your choices. We'd love to have you. It doesn't matter what your skill level is. We have splits for you, so you can get into the race today and have a fun time. RaceRCI.com. And once you do that, maybe you're going to want to get up to pace. No better way to do that than Driver 61, John.
Yeah, a few partners, of course, with us here at RCI, including driver61.com, of course, where you can get 25% off your driver coaching by using our discount code. You can find a link in the description below and the discount code as well. From one-on-one coaching to full driving courses, the folks over at Driver61 will have something that fits your needs, and they've helped thousands hone their skills and discover unknown potential. And if they do WRC lessons, I could be very interested in that as well. Of course, AK Esports, a leading Italian company in esports management and organization across the world, founded in 2005 as an IT company and establishing itself as a point of reference in the hardware sector. 2018 debuted their first Porsche Esports Championship, and since then has found success with the SRO Motorsports Group and Dallara, among many other brands, including us here at RCI for providing our fantastic server solutions. Check out their website in the description below if you think they can help you and your needs. Fanatec, one of the leading hardware brands in dedicated sim racing units, including force feedback wheels, direct drive units, pedals, load cells, and much, much more. And you can, of course, find our RCI affiliate link in the description below. And it won't cost you a single penny, but it does help us here with the running costs at RCI. So if you are looking to pick up some new hardware for your loved ones across the season or spend those Christmas pennies, then be sure to use our link down below. And two new partners, of course, for 2023 with us here at RCI, coming on board in the early days, seeing us through the Esports Championship as well. DigitalMotorsports.com, offering a number of products and services from virtual driving experiences, corporate events, an early drive program for 13 to 17-year-olds in conjunction with BMW at Mondello Park, Esports Championships, driver training, simulator components, and even complete sim rig solutions. Founded in 2018 by two enthusiastic motorsports fans, they had a vision to create Ireland's leading digital motorsports environment and resource. Visit the link down below to check out their offerings. And again, if you are looking to pick up any new hardware and you're in their target market, be sure to choose those guys. And lastly, but no means least, Go Setups, formed to be, of course, one of the premium setup stores for ACC, with their primary aim to create setups for all skill levels, whether you're esports ready or looking for a safer alternative for your favorite car. Featuring a plethora of stars on their team, you can be sure the setup you choose has extensive hours behind it. And check out the description below for a link to their store. And they have just released this week custom BOP setups, of course, aimed at the LFM end of the market, of course, where they've recently done many hours of research and hot laps into the BOP and ACC in a bid to improve it. So specific LFM setups are now on their radar as well. And I think after all that waffle, Jesse Lee, we were going to be hopefully ready for standings, but it's not looking hopeful tonight. So I think we're going to have to bring you some standings next week when we do, of course, go live here on RCI TV once again on Monday's usual time on that one. And Jesse Lee, we've got a few events coming up this week. Of course, the Team Championship on Wednesday. We've got iRacing on Thursday, and we've got Saturday Night Owl as well. Night Owl, again, is a given broadcast. Are we live for Wednesdays again this week?
Well, that's a little bit of a mystery. We play that by ear every single week, so it's a little bit of a bonus stream. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. It's like those pop-up indie bands in the city back in the day. Maybe I'm too old and people don't know what I'm talking about, but maybe we'll have a Wednesday stream, a little bonus for you. If not, of course, we'll be back with you on Saturday for the continuation of Night Owl.
Now, indeed, on Saturdays. And just had it in my ear from Ash Bibby. Apparently, we do have standings. We have waffled enough, Jesse, to have a look at championship standings. And this is how it stands after Watkins Glen. Andy Boardman, of course, extending his lead. I don't think this is right, actually. I'm looking at something different on the website. Andy Boardman is 188 points clear, not 119 as per the broadcast. So I think a little bug has happened. We'll have a refresh. Hopefully we can get the right standings on your screens, but I'll read down as I've got them from my end. Nico Kumpu, the big gainer this week, up into P2. He's got 137 points to the good. Bjorn Walerius closed the gap, though, 132 points in P3, with Victor Nordqvist now on 114 in P4. Joe Dorber, a rotten points haul this race, netting only just 15 points for Watkins Glen in 5th on 111. Christian Lindgren on 101. The greatest last name in sim racing, creeping inside the top 10. Jesse Matthew Kingston Lee on
Let's go.
97.
I'm not biased.
Tom Shipston in P8 on 90, and just 1 point behind is Mitchell Menez Rodriguez on 89, and Grim Lilith just about snuck into your top 10. And here is the updated standings. Very fast fingers, Ash Bibby preparing them. I've had a quick rundown. I'll let you have a brief scroll down of your favorite drivers before we move on to page 2. Phil Roberts, the big loser this week. Jesse from the top to 11th
say
with
that.
84 points to his name. Jeff Gordon's going to have to improve when we head to Europe for the next 2 rounds.
Dear.
Snooty McFlude in 12th with 66 points. Ross Gamb with 61. Aaron Jackson on 53, Mike Redford on 51. We then got Miguel Martin still solid on 50, of course, didn't show up this week. And then we've got Byron and Phil Malta tied on 40 points apiece. Les Stevenson on 38 and Richard Phillips on 29 rounds out your top 20 in Pro. Now, moving on to the final page, I believe. Jordan Daly with 25. Jake Boswell with 19. Carlos Calatiud with 15. Billy Octane managed to salvage something today with 12. Raphael Huell on 11. Benjamin Schumann on 9. And Nicholas Nordqvist on 8. Miguel Reda-Ritchie, Matt Stevens, and John Eraser have signed out the championship and will take no further part. Now, as we move on to the silver standings, it's looking very close at the top. Jesse Lee, Ted Edwards on 174 points. Callum Kerrigan with 172 just behind. So keep your eye on those two next time out at Zandvoort. Matthew Malcolm on 136 and Kevin Boss just behind on 130. Of course, home soil next time for Kevin. Tim Ireland on 115, tied with Bren Jones after his solid finish today. Richard Hutchins on 102. Lauren De Jong on 71, tied with Sam Burnett. And Pavel on 62 will round out your top 10 in silver. Frederick Rude on 40, Sarah Stant on 28, John Schultzer and Cherry Stewart on 0 points apiece, and Alexander van der Voda has unfortunately signed out and will take no further part in the silver standings. So great to bring you the standings as they are from the race we just had here at Watkins Glen. It's fantastic to be able to bring you those in the same broadcast, so every driver knows where they stand going forward, because I know a lot of them do watch this back and they do appreciate the effort we put in. So it's great to have you. If you made it this far and you know your championship standings, you know your rivals now for the next 2 events. So it's going to be elbows out, I feel, at Zandvoort next week, Jesse.
Yeah, it is. And Andy Boardman looking really good on 188. He's done such a magnificent job through 3 rounds of the championship. He's ate the pressure up like it was nothing. But with so many pros that we have, John, just one bad race is going to level that playing field the same way it did in the silver class. It could happen to the pro class as well. So it's a pivotal race number 4 at Zandvoort next Monday.
Yeah, of course, Andy Boardman at the helm of the field with a good points haul. He can kind of not switch off, I would say, Jesse, but he can certainly relax knowing he's got a good chunk of points already in the kitty for the beginning half of the season. We, of course, will bring you scenes from Zandvoort next Monday here at RCI TV. So remember to hit that subscribe button, see the stream notification essentially that gets pushed to your sub box on the day, and remember to set that reminder for when we do go live to bring you all the action from the Netherlands next week. But of course, from us here at Watkins Glen, it's been a fantastic race. We've had absolute scenes of chaos up and down the grid, and some championship fights are now very much alive heading into the latter half of the season. I'd like to wish you all the best in the forthcoming week. I hope you all take good care of yourselves, and I'm very excited to see you back again here on RCI TV. So from myself, John Dalton, from Jesse Lee alongside me, of course, from Ash Bibby behind the cameras, and all our live stewards, we bid you farewell. We hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care, and we'll see you next week for round 4 at Zandvoort.